And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Out to Washington with the latest on the shutdown, the Senate proposal, and her recent appearance on the Sean Hannity radio show. Kayleigh McEnany joining us from the RNC. Kayleigh, good morning.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning. How are you?
Good. You know, that was you with Sean. Was it on Thursday or Friday? Is that right?
That's right. It was Friday.
You know, I heard your voice because we have Sean on here, and I'm going, I know her. I go, that's our Kayleigh. There she is. So glad to have you with us. Good morning.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You know, let's talk a little bit about over the weekend, the president making a peace offering, saying, look, this has gone on too long. Border security is so important. The angel moms, the angel families are so important. Getting people back to work is important. Let's work on a compromise. And, well, we'll just let you take it from there. That's why we have you on, Kayleigh, to hear what you have to say.
Right. Well, the president, he offered compromise. I wrote a piece on FoxNews.com about this, not once, not twice, but 3 times. He took that border wall funding down, changed from concrete to steel slabs, and then, as you mentioned, over the weekend, offered a fix on DACA, at least a temporary one. So these are all reasonable, common-sense proposals, and all of it's in exchange for the border wall. But nevertheless, before he could even announce the proposal, Nancy Pelosi had already rejected it. There's one party compromising here, and it is not Nancy Pelosi. It is certainly the president.
Right, and yet you have people continuing to blame the president, continuing to say that the furloughed workers are suffering because of him. The Senate expected to take up this proposal today. How do you think that'll play out?
Yeah, so this will be quite interesting to see because Joe Manchin, of course, a Democrat senator, came out and said he thinks that the president's offer could end the shutdown. So that's really, confident to think you've even got one Democrat. And then you have Doug Jones, of course, from Alabama, another Democratic senator, the New York Times writing a piece saying, hey, if he doesn't step up and get this border wall funding, then he's going to have a hard time winning re-election. So if you start to see 2 or 3 Democratic senators break, you might start to see others. I'm not too confident because Democrats do tend to be the party of no, but hey, we do have some encouraging signs, which would put a lot of pressure on the House should it pass the Senate.
Right, and you go back to the House. There have been some people in the House, some of these young Democrats that vowed they would never vote for Nancy Pelosi, that voted for Nancy Pelosi, saying, look, we need to make a deal. We need to compromise. We need to get folks back to work.
That's right. You do have some of that. So you're starting to see some breaks, and not just, in the Senate, where you have had both in the Senate and the House, people saying, hey, walls work. They're not immoral. So there's breaks there. You're also seeing breaks from people saying, Democrats saying, hey, we need to get these federal workers paid. Perhaps it's time to compromise. And notably, I think perhaps most notable of all is the fact that Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House, came out and broke with Nancy Pelosi and said, hey, walls do work. They're not immoral. So you have these pretty big breaks between the top 2 Democrats in the House that may be indicative of something coming and maybe a compromise. But again, I don't have much hope because Democrats seem more interested in traveling than remaining in Washington and negotiating.
Kayleigh McEnany joining us from the RNC on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller in the morning. Kayleigh, someone who you make your living in politics, in governance. Let's go into the mind of Nancy Pelosi. Is she calling the shots, and what does she hope to gain by saying, nope, we're not moving one iota?
She is calling the shots. There's no doubt about that. I think Chuck Schumer seemed to want to make a deal, is what the president said weeks ago before the shutdown began, and he felt it was Nancy Pelosi really holding the whole thing up. And you have to ask yourself, what is she doing? Who is she representing? Because it doesn't seem to be the entirety of the Democratic Party, given the kind of dissension that I mentioned. So she appears only to be representing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the far left flank of her party at the expense of maybe the more moderate Democrats. And I think ultimately she's going to pay a real price for that. Her party will, because this far left extremism, abolish ICE, open borders, that's just not something that the American people want.
Indeed, of course, from her perspective, remember she said that the Democrats will offer compromise. It'll be a lot more bipartisanship, truly the bait and switch, the campaign of Nancy Pelosi, and now that she has regained power.
She said that, but hey, they've done nothing of the sort. She mentioned that she wanted to work with the president when she first took the gavel. She mentioned, infrastructure being an area where there's some commonality, but we're not at the place where we can even move forward with legislation because we can't even get the government open because of Nancy Pelosi. So if she's truly interested in bipartisan change, the first step would be taking a step toward the president, working this out, getting those workers paid, securing our border because the costs are high, drugs crossing the border every day, criminals attempting to cross the border, known or suspected terrorists who have attempted to cross our borders here in the United States. And then that also happens on a daily basis, as confirmed by DHS. So there's a lot going on, and it's really important to secure the government, to secure the border, and to open the government.
Kayleigh, what do you make of just the administration constantly under attack with this phony story from BuzzFeed, and yet the press doesn't retract it, and they continue to try and recycle these things? You had the special prosecutor's staff come out and say, no, this story is false. It really undermines the president's ability to get his message out to really govern.
It's incredible when you saw on Friday multiple news outlets reporting the story with the caveat, well, if this is true, then the president should be impeached. Well, if this is verified, the president should step down, get out of office. It's incredible because they never went down the if this is true route with President Obama. That's something that they saved for President Trump. And it's completely anathema to journalistic ethics. It's completely the opposite of what a reporter with integrity should do. And then they were all caught with a lot of mud on their face, a lot of egg on their face on Friday night when the special counsel rebuked the reporting and said, no, it's just flat out false. But it's really disappointing to see the very serious allegation and one that multiple outlets ran with on the basis of no facts, no truth, no verification.
Kayleigh, let's talk a little bit about the good things going on. We've got a Republican Senate. We've got some really awesome freshmen in the House. Too often we're reacting proactively. What's going on with the Republicans in the Senate and the House, ma'am?
Yeah, unfortunately not a lot's going on because we're so kind of enmeshed in this government shutdown. I know Mitch McConnell's trying to move Bill Barr through his nomination for Attorney General. He continues to try to move some judges through the Senate and is doing a great job at that. But we're at a real standstill now. There's not much that can be done when all the focus is on opening the government. We want to move on to infrastructure. We'd like to move on to all sorts of issues where we have areas of commonality, a broader immigration deal. But right now, we can't even solve the basics. And I say we, meaning the Democrats, because they need to come to the table. We've offered compromise after compromise after compromise. And unfortunately, they have not been there with their hand extended, ready to negotiate.
So when we take a look at the 2020 race, not just presidentially, but in the House and Senate, how does that help the RNC craft the message, even though we're just a little under 2 years away from another election?
Well, 2020 is fast approaching. You have Kamala Harris, who threw her hat into the ring yesterday, along with Elizabeth Warren just after Christmas, just before the new year, and several others, Mazie Hirono. I think that this field is going to have dozens and dozens of Democrats, and I think they're going to make our job easy because there's going to be a lot of infighting. There's going to be a lot of back and forth during those debates and struggles to get noticed with the far left flank of the party. So the nominee who emerges is going to be very tainted by socialism and far left ideology. It's going to be hard to win on a national stage. And as you mentioned, those Senate and House races are very important too. The map is not as friendly to us. I think there's only one Democrat in a red state up for re-election in the Senate. So we've got to work hard to protect our majority there.
Kayleigh, we appreciate you. Love seeing you on TV on Sean's show, and thank you for thinking of us this morning here in Idaho.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a great week.
Thank you. All right, Kayleigh McEnany joining us from the RNC. You might have heard her Friday on the Sean Hannity show. You know how it is when you're driving in your car and you hear a voice that sounds familiar? There's Kayleigh, first on the Sean show, then on our show, thanks to the great Ray Amaya. KIDO Talk Radio Time is 614, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you were working yesterday, if you were listening yesterday, we were talking about this controversy involving the Covington High School, Catholic high school kids in Washington, D.C. We were the first to tell you that, look, you had the a group of African-American black militants that were harassing these kids. We actually played the audio before all the national shows, which is what we do here in the morning, whether it's local, state, or national. We want you to react at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, where you have these kids that were every year, Covington High School, Catholic High School in Covington, Kentucky, just over by Cincinnati, just across the river. They go every year to the March for Life. And maybe, whether you lived in Idaho or Iowa or Indiana or wherever, you took the trip to D.C. as a class trip. I know I did when I was in 8th grade. And these kids every year go to the pro-life march. And then after the march, they meet up at the Lincoln Memorial. Well, there they were under assault, and I'm not making this group up, by the Black Hebrew Israelites. Now, let me repeat that one more time. The Black Hebrew Israelites. Grown men who started shouting racist and derogatory slurs at these young Catholic boys. So, enter the Native American Vietnam veteran, Mr. Phillips, who Mr. Phillips comes in, and according to published reports, he had a group with him, and they were trying to get these Catholic kids, who, by the way, were white. Yes, by the way, Dr. King's holiday is over, so it's back to everything is racist in America. And what they wanted to do was to get a gotcha moment where the white kids were, taunted, and Mr. Phillips got in their face. And over the weekend, you're thinking, gosh, can I just enjoy a great weekend of weather here before the Canyon County Kids Expo? Can I just have a good time here in the Treasure Valley? But no, it was this white kid smirking at this Native American Indian activist, right? And as I said yesterday, I don't think a 63-year-old is intimidated by a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old. And dare the kid had a Make America Great hat on, right? He dared to have one of those hats on. So what happened next? They condemned the kid for being racist. Well, what we know now is the Black Hebrew Israelites, as we first shared with you yesterday, were shouting hurls and racial insults and everything else, trying to provoke these kids. And then you had Mr. Phillips trying to provoke these kids, and they didn't do anything. And here you have young Catholic white men, boys, behaving more than the adults, trying to, once again, destroy our great America, and right on the King holiday, create a faux racist moment. If this doesn't wake you up, this is the audio of the guy coming in, looking for these kids, trying to upset them. So what they did is they started to diffuse the moment. They started doing their own high school cheer. They started doing their own cheer that they do at football games or basketball games. That's what you're hearing in the background. Oh, by the way, shame on this 63-year-old man. Dude, get a life. If your life is revolving around using your culture and having people with cameras trying to entrap little boys, you need some therapy, in my opinion. So there you have the kids just hanging out. They're young people. They have limited life experience.
Let's make America great again. A bunch of child molesting.
Right. I'm sure that guy's mama is proud of him. And yet the media, just like they did with the Duke lacrosse case, just like they did with the UVA case where they said that the kids at fraternity raped a bunch of girls, which they didn't. The media jumped to conclusions. And coming up next, a major network, even though the truth has been told, continues to double down on this. I'd like to get your reaction early in the morning. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The media, public enemy number one.
You got all these dirty ass crackers behind you with a red Make America Great hat hair get on, and your coon ass, you want to fight your brother.
There you have it. Hello, welcome to the weekend. If that doesn't wake you up, you have grown men, the black Hebrew Israelites. Where in the Bible do they define that language? By the way, just craziness. Goofy, radical nut jobs taking over. I don't know which is worse. Mr. Phillips, who's banging the drum, the black Hebrew Israelites trying to stir it up, or the media doing their very best to destroy our great nation. Won't you join me in the crusade? Let's hear from you next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning. Eric in Cuna, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Eric.
Hey, good morning, brother.
How you been?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Actually, there was a couple of things I want to talk about just from everything I was listening to, but just about this. This Indian guy who is Native American. Just for the record, all you little butthurt babies, you put on your ear filters and climb in your little safety hole. You might want to turn on down the radio. Okay, the leftist wacko kook who happens to be Native American was bird dogging those kids along with, the black Israelite people and all the other up and coming agitators that wherever they were. These kids were the reason that when that picture was snapped, that guy was in their face, banging his drum like a moron, bird dogging them like he wanted to fight them. And when they snapped the picture, they just happened to snap it at that moment, where the kids were like, high school kids like, what the hell is this guy? Excuse my language, but he's like, what's this guy's problem? That's when they snapped it. And then, it's the good thing, like a show like yours disseminates what really is going on there and breaking it down and everything. But anyway, that's my take on that. But let's get to the issue we were just talking about the shutdown and everything. You know what kind of bugs me really is, okay, let's look at Trump for the last 2 years. He's a winner, okay, on every front. Let's look at foreign policy. Look at he's met with Kim Jong-un. I mean, he has done so many great things for our country. He didn't go meet with Kim Jong-un for some kind of image thing. He was doing it because he is a negotiator, a deal maker, a businessman. He's not a damn attorney. You know what I mean? So he's a winner. Look what he's done in the last 2 years on every front. He's bringing back jobs, lower taxes. I mean, you name it. So part of what his job is to secure our country. He's bringing back our troops back into our country from Syria. And oh no, we can't do that. Oh really? Why can't he do that? Why can't he bring back the troops to America? Huh? Tell me that one. You think about that. Why not have the military around Donald Trump? Because let's face it, the military's got his back. But so in his agenda and whatnot, part of what he's doing is securing the country, and that the border wall was part of the plan the whole time. And up to these, like that one, what's her name? It kind of looks like Charles Manson a little bit. Cortez Ocasio or whatever.
You're saying Cortez looks like agitator. You're saying she looks like Charles Manson?
Yeah, her eyes.
Wow.
Kind of reminds me of Charlie Manson. Nancy Pelosi kind of got that same look too. But anyway, her, the up and coming agitators, and Nancy Pelosi. I mean, what bothers me is every single day since this happened, it's like a press release or why do we got to hear Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi take on this every single day? Why can't I hear a congressman from Montana tell us what's going on? Why do we got to hear Nancy Pelosi? Well, let's just face it, she is that crazy. I mean, what are they doing? They're not even doing anything. It's like, what are they doing? Their job is to secure. They did bipartisan. Bipartisan
Sure.
is completely out of her realm of understanding at this point.
Eric, great call. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother, man. I love you, man. Just keep it going, brother.
I love you. You take care. All right. Thank you, Eric. 625 KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Here's Channel 7's Eric Everett.
And back to your phone calls. Let's go to Ron in Caldwell with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Kevin. I'm just kind of curious. I wonder what the Vegas odds are on who's going to blink first here. Mrs. Pelosi, I believe, is Italian, and President Trump, isn't he Scottish or something? So this will be interesting. This is better than the Super Bowl. No, really. What channels are going to be on too? Anyway, have a good morning.
Thank you, Ron. Take care, brother. All right, let's get back to this NBC story. By the way, we'll take more of your calls. And look, it's all shut down all the time, but here is NBC. Now, by the way, these kids were receiving death threats from the Black Hebrew Israelites. That wasn't reported. They have continued to receive death threats. And these are grown men attacking young little boys.
A bunch of incest babies. A bunch of babies made out of incest. Right,
There we have it. I'm sure his mama is proud of him. Your reaction, but first let's go to NBC here. By the way, you're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And just so we can show you, thanks to our friends at Newsbusters, how the media crafts their racist, inaccurate narrative message.
Complete picture of what happened in that viral confrontation between students wearing MAGA hats and a Native American elder at the Lincoln Memorial. Our Ron Allen now on how the student at the center of all this is defending himself.
This face-to-face confrontation igniting charges of racism. Kentucky high school students accused of mocking Native American elder Nathan Phillips, who claims his drumming was a gesture of peace.
I was scared. I was feared.
But today, junior Nick Sandman, at the center of the controversy, is speaking out. He and his classmates who face possible expulsion from Covington Catholic insist this longer video shows what really happened.
This is a bunch of future school shootings.
The teens say they faced a barrage of verbal abuse from a group calling themselves the Black Hebrew Israelites.
By the way, back to the inaccurate narrative from NBC News. The teens say, no, there's the message there. School shooters, we're going to kill you. We're going to destroy you. That's not kids making those allegations. And by the way, Mr. Phillips, who blatantly lied when he said that he was afraid of the kids, a 63-year-old Vietnam veteran afraid of a 14-year-old. Really? Then, Mr. Phillips, why did you go into that circle? Oh, you were looking to create a viral moment. You were looking to be the center of the story, right? You know, being on television, being on social media, you know, why do people crave that? At the expense of our great nation? It's crazy.
Sandman claims they got permission from chaperones to respond with spirit chants to counter the hateful things that were being shouted. Phillips approached, trying, he says, to decrease tension between the two groups.
I intervened, and things just escalated from there.
Sandman claims he singled me out for a confrontation, adding, I did smile at one point because I wanted him to know that I was not going to become angry, intimidated, or be provoked. A Kentucky congressman now backing the students, tweeting, in the face of racist and homosexual slurs, the young boys refuse to reciprocate or disrespect anyone. Native American advocates say the video speaks for itself.
He got caught doing something that was incredibly racist and disrespectful. And
right. So what did he get caught doing? You know, this is, again, why it's so important that we continue to stay together. We continue to promote our values and what we're up against. The kid was wearing a Make America Great hat. He went to the pro-life rally. He's part of a Catholic school. He was shouted at. He was threatened. And then you have Mr. Phillips coming up there, who I guess at the age of 63 is wanting to be the next media darling, the next media victim. Now, I love what my dad said one time we were driving he says, I choose to be a victim. And this woman, Tara Huska, you know, she's just clearly mistaken. You know, shame on the adults. As my mom used to say, who's the adult in the room, Kevin? Who's the adult here? And we now know that Mr. Phillips had a camera crew with him. And he was looking for a confrontation. This is why the media is the most, not the libs, but the media, because they own the message, they craft the message, and they're trying to destroy America.
And now he's backpedaling.
The school and local diocese have apologized to Phillips, a Vietnam veteran, as the search for more video and answers continues. Ron Allen, NBC News.
Right, all they were doing was doing their school cheer, and shame on the school for not waiting until they actually had the correct information. Your calls are next. You're listening to Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And coming up, security guard Mike and Hank. Before that, Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio, only here on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, and it's all about the Irish. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, good morning to you.
So here we have it, Christopher Columbus. The murals are going to get the boot from Notre Dame.
Well, they're 134 years old, these murals, and they're works of art inside Notre Dame's main building. And after decades of complaints by students, including members of the university's Native American Student Association, who have said that the images were demeaning to Native Americans, these murals, these 12 murals, will be covered up. They depict Christopher Columbus as an explorer who was doing good and friends of the native peoples. But we know that wasn't necessarily accurate because his arrival was basically nothing short of a catastrophe for native peoples, pointing to enslavement and of indigenous people and epidemics that killed millions, according to John Jenkins, the president of the school. So these things are going to be covered up. They won't be destroyed. They won't be taken down because they're painted on directly on the plaster of the main building, and they were done so between 1882 and 1884 by a famous artist from Italy, Luigi Gregory, who also painted much of the interior of the Basilica of the Sacred Heart at Notre Dame and other significant works. So there is historical value. So these things are going to be covered up. These murals of Christopher Columbus, there's going to be a picture taken of them and placed somewhere else, created somewhere else with an explanation of their context. These images, these renderings, these paintings may be showed, at another time or on occasion, according to the university. But they will be celebrated in a way to celebrate, Catholic immigrants without marginalizing others, according to the university.
All right, Jeff Manasso, a very thorough report from you as always. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. You excited?
Well, I picked L.A., and you remember I picked your Patriots. So I picked it. I had no idea that it was going to be the missed call gate. I don't know. I think I would have been more excited if it was Kansas City and the Saints, to be quite honest with you. I know you love your Pats, but I think the rest of us are getting a little sick of Tom Brady. That said, there's no denying that he is probably the greatest quarterback we've ever seen, and for a Tom Brady, another Tom Brady to show. I mean, we may never see this in our lifetimes. What he and Bill Belichick have accomplished. I mean, it really is truly incredible. So hats off to them. Hats off to L.A. For having the ref look the other way on that one play. But yeah, it'll be, the Super Bowl is always fun. The entertainment's always cool. There's a value there, and so I'm excited to see that.
9 Super Bowls, although with these quarterbacks getting younger, we could see a Mahomes or a Goff or someone else maybe break that record one day. The Brady's.
I don't know.
9 Super
I mean,
Bowls,
it's truly remarkable. It's so hard to get to one Super Bowl, let alone 9. So we'll see. He really is. It's truly remarkable. So I don't know what they're doing to those footballs to
I'm sure it's on tape somewhere
to get this stretch, but it's working.
Jeff Manasso, we appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, my friend.
All right, Jeff Manasso joining us. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So the media continues to attack the Covington Catholic High School kids. Their lives have been threatened. But that the media doesn't report that. Of course, this is what happened over the weekend.
You got all these dirty ass crackers behind you with a red Make America Great hat again on, and your coon ass, you want to fight your brother.
That's the black Israelites, Hebrew Israelites, taunting young boys. The boys didn't do anything. And by the way, Mark sends me an email. Hey, what about the tomahawk chop? That wasn't the tomahawk chop. That was, look, who's the adults here? The 63-year-old Vietnam veteran, Native American, who's banging the drum. He doesn't want to work all day. He wants to bang on the drum all day. Again, I don't want to work. I just want to bang on the drum all day. Yes, I'm tone deaf. So, who's the adult here? The kids? And what did they do? They reacted remarkably. Instead of getting in this guy's face, instead of trying to be a tough guy, they chanted their high school cheers. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Security guard Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin Miller, the day after Martin Luther King Day. Oh, my goodness, do I have a dream. Unbelievable. I cannot believe. I was watching that thing with the Covington High School kids over the weekend. When I first saw it on CNN, I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. Why would that guy be banging the drum in that kid's face? And then they had the audacity to try to say that it was the kids that walked up to him. But you could clearly see that he had walked up to them, but they just tried to crop it down to just a little bit where he was banging the drum in that kid's face. But I started looking into that a little bit more. I saw all the angles and everything, all the different video, because there's a lot of people out there with cameras today, and you could see it all over the place. And those kids were doing nothing. They were being harassed by the black Hebrew Israelites and then this Phillips guy. Thank you for his service and all that stuff. I appreciate that. But don't make up lies on somebody. That's not a good thing to do. It's just not right. Come on.
Well, what kind of man, what kind of adult does that?
A guy who's trying to get his agenda out. His agenda is probably he wants all white people to go back to Europe, because that's what they were saying. That all you white people need to go back to Europe. Well, I was born in Japan because my dad was in the Air Force, so I'm Japanese. So, so I'm telling you, all those Native Americans that claim that were they created here by God, or did they come across the Barangay Bridge? Are they really natives, or did they invade an empty land? That's all I want to know. I mean, so anyway, it was a bad thing. Those kids did nothing wrong. Now they're being harassed and threatened with death and all kinds of stuff. That's not good. That is not good. Come on. America, let's live in peace and harmony. United we stand, divided we fall. And that's the way it is. That's what Abraham Lincoln said. And a house divided against itself cannot stand. Let's get united, America. And the people of Idaho are great. They stand united. I can see that around here all the time when I'm working all over the place, and I see Idaho people, and they know how to be united and be one as one. So let's take an example from the state of Idaho and spread it out all over the rest of the country. And you take care of Kevin Miller, and you're awesome, and I appreciate you, and you're the best. And thank God you're back from Hawaii. And good luck to your Patriots.
Hopefully they'll do better than the Tide.
Roll Tide. I'll say it again.
My bad.
It hurts me. Okay. Talk to you later, buddy.
All right, Security Guard Mike, we appreciate you. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Hank in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Hank.
Good morning. The mainstream media has passed the point of being biased. It's a case where they do the Goebbels act of Nazi. In other words, you double down on the lie. So if the network doubles down, the idea was Goebbels would say if you repeat the lie often enough, it becomes believable. So what you do is you do your selective clips and you just double down, and that's where the best way to describe the modern day press is that they're Democrat Party rap chicks just as much as the media in Germany in the 30s were Nazi apparatchiks. These guys are Democrat apparatchiks. So that's just I think that's the way how you have to view it. I think it's terrible what they tried to do to these kids. And as far as the racism involved in it, the words like cracker and stuff would be like me saying to him, going up and saying to him, boy, you don't belong here. That would be the equivalent of what he says when he talks to whites and he calls them crackers. To me, that's racism. plain and naked. But the Democrat Party, all throughout its history, has had a history of plain identity politics and racism. Whether you go back to the Civil War when they pitted the Irish against the blacks in New York politics or the Boss Tweed, you always use one group. You use one group against another, and pit one group against the other, and divide the population. That's been their standard motive. You can go all the way back to Andrew Jackson and the local focals, and you could play the anti-Indian themes in the South. Jackson rode the victory on this sort of thing. So I mean, racism. The only difference is the colors are reversed. Now, instead of pitting whites against other ethnic groups, you pit other ethnic groups against whites, and particularly white males. So the colors have changed, but the tactics remain the same for the last 150 years of this party. And
Hank, anything else?
Well, I was going to say about Ortiz. She looks like for slight little woman like she is, or that young radical elector in New York, those enormous teeth. She reminds me of Chupacabra more than anything else.
All right, Hank.
She got that mouth full of things. I'd hate to get bitten by her.
Well, hopefully she won't be biting you or anyone else.
Well, we all hope, but I think she's looking for trouble.
Hank, thank you for the call.
Bye.
Bye-bye. It's very interesting this morning. And by the way, in the old days, we would, make fun of how people look and such. But this unsolicited review and commentary on Miss Ocasio-Cortez, I don't know. I'm everybody has an opinion. I'm not really into making fun of how people look. Why? Because you can't do that anymore. We could talk a little bit about Mr. Phillips or these kids. Let me go to some email. And by the way, you can always reach me on Twitter at Kevin Miller Show. Let's see. Or Facebook, Kevin Miller Show, or Kevin Miller, or whatever. Email Kevin at KIDO Talk Radio. Mark in Boise. So the kids tried to defuse the situation by doing a tomahawk chop chant by staring smugly at a Native American and a veteran. Mark, I would agree that they did because, look, there's the language of the street, and this guy wanted to do his very best to provoke them. And I would stare smugly. I would be making goofy faces at this guy. Who comes up to somebody and starts banging a drum? Mark continues with his email to Kevin Miller. I'm surprised they didn't put on blackface like they did back at that basketball game in 2015. Right, because that's what we do. We seek to, look, I'm going to share Mark's email with you next. We got a lot going on today. Won't you join the conversation? We are the place to be heard. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio time, 6:52. Let's go to Choice in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Choice.
Morning. I think we just need to keep the focus on the elephant in the room with almost all these issues. And that is, Hank pointed out that the Democratic Party tactics have not changed for many years. And really the only thing that's changed is that the media has gone from attempting to represent the truth for the people, no matter which political party is in power, to the media has become a propaganda arm. That's it. That's all they do. So for anyone, including the president, to say that the media is the enemy of the people is a completely accurate statement. No one can trust any mainstream media reports, regardless of who it comes from, even Fox News. And you have to ask, okay, so are they just unprofessional and unethical? At best case scenario is they're unethical and unprofessional. Well, that doesn't represent the people in any way. So worst case scenario is they do it with malice and hatred in mind. So either way, no matter which way you slice it up, they're the enemy of the people because they've become nothing more than a propaganda arm putting out unverified, unfact-checked stories. And that is what is actually dividing the country because without it being fact-checked, they put it out there, they blame one side and don't give both sides the story, and then that causes hate and discontent amongst all the people. They are pushing one group to be angry at another group.
Why do they hate us? Why do they hate America?
That's a good question, but, I mean, the facts are that 4 families own all the media. That means major news networks, cable news, cable TV channels you watch, magazine print, newspaper print. You go start investigating it, and there's like 4 or 5 families that are considered the elite that own all the forms of major media that people consume on a daily basis. And it just so happens that those 4 families lean to the Democratic Party.
Well, Joyce, thank you for the call.
Yep, no problem, Kevin. You have a good day.
You too. All right. Appreciate the call from Mountain Home. Okay, so let's get to this. You can always email me, Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com, or Twitter at Kevin Miller Show. So this is from Mark, and this is, again, Mark, I appreciate the email, but this is the left and just their overall meanness. In fact, I have a friend of mine, I was the best man at his wedding. I put something on Twitter about how the schools should retract their retraction and support these kids, and he starts talking about some type of rape allegation that happened in 2015. Why are we so heck bent on destroying young kids? So here's Mark's email. Kevin Miller, so the kid's trying to defuse the situation by doing a tomahawk chop chant, by staring smugly at a Native American and a veteran. I'm surprised they didn't put on the blackface like they did back at that basketball game in 2015. While the black Israelites were wrong, their kids and their chaperones aren't blameless, my friend. On an unrelated note, might I suggest that you and all of the deplorables that listen to you so religiously reconsider supporting any future legislation that can take away the rights to be covered for pre-existing medical conditions. It will cost you 2 years' salary to have your lips surgically removed from Donald Trump's, well, we can't say that word, so we'll just say derriere or fanny once he's done ruining this country. Mark in Boise. Well, Mark, thank you for the insight and for listening. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time.
Evans Eric Everett.
And we go to Pro Life, who joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro Life.
Yeah, if you go back and examine just what's happening, the media, if you go and interview all those media people and ask them what do they think about the United Nations, they would all tell you, listen, we need to get rid of the United States Constitution. We need to bring the United States down, and we need to have world government, and then we'll have peace. Now, and then if you interview the people on our side, we all believe that our form of government, our constitutional government, is the way to preserve peace, and that needs to be expanded to the world. It's the media is intentionally doing this. If you interview for a media job, those people at the top of the media, they're one world government people, and they know that Trump is not that kind of a person. So the media is trying to create chaos in America so that we will say, well, our constitutional government is not going to serve us. It's not the right thing. Look, it just creates all of this hatred. So we're going to have to
We're going to have to buckle down. God bless. The media hates us because they ain't us. Kevin Miller, good morning.